We're only human, right? It's a human emotion. Like fear is ingrained within all humans. There's not a human on this planet that doesn't feel fear. Welcome to another episode of the Conquer Online podcast. I'm your host Eric and your two hosts Veronica.
Host? I thought you were going to claim the title.
I am the host. Let me refrain. Let me refrain. We are the hosts together, equal hosts. Today's episode we're talking about fear and doubt, right? We basically, we've all done a lot of shit now. We've had our different businesses, we've done a lot of different stuff, and fear and doubt is always like a recurring theme, right? Because you always got to push through it. So that's why we've decided to chat about that in today's podcast. So
you'd be lying if anyone out there listening now has never had some sort of fear and doubt. Everyone's gone through it, and there's obviously ways to overcome it, and that's sort of what we want to talk about here today.
Yeah. So whether it's starting something new, or in your career, or in personal relationships, or school, anything really, there's fear and doubt always comes up. Even how you feel about yourself, I think that's actually the biggest one, because that affects everything else that you're doing in life. And I don't think a day goes by where there's whether it's doubt, negative thoughts, something stopping you procrastinating, self-sabotage, and it's actually just a really interesting topic, because it happens every day. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you are confronted with those things, and you need to have, now, if we all consider ourselves high performers, we have high standards, high expectations, we do have goals that are up here that we want to go forward and achieve. And when you are pushing the boundaries, when you are challenging yourself, when you are stepping outside of your comfort zone, you're going to hit these barriers every single time.
We're only human, right? It's a human emotion. Like fear is ingrained within all humans. There's not a human on this planet that doesn't feel fear.
Yeah.
Jeff fucking Bezos would feel fear. Elon Musk would feel fear, but they're just probably the best at not letting it kind of get in their way.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying to myself, just I'm scared, or there's fear, or if someone goes aren't you scared to do that? It's just I'm fucking petrified to do that, but you do it anyway. And it's not, I think maybe people actually, they let fear stop them from doing something they really, really, really want, whether it's a new business, whether it's, because what will other people think? I'm scared that if I do this business and leave my, stable, secure career, what would they think? I'll be disowned, whatever it may be. And people are well, I'm not ready because I feel scared. And I think actually my biggest, not tip, but what I've come to realize and what's really helped me is there's no such thing as feeling ready. There's no such thing as I'll do it when I feel scared, therefore it's a sign. No, you feel that fear and you completely acknowledge it and you embrace it, and actually use that fear as a guide that this is scary because it's actually pushing me outside of my comfort zone. It is pushing me to that next level of self.
Yeah, that you said embrace it, because I recently read a book called Winning, and it's all about how some people actually I've been speaking about this book so much.
Really?
I think I've read it 3 times now. I listened to it 3 times. Massive fan. But basically he's talking about how some people would actually learn to control fear and then use that as a good energy. So it's you need to be able to recognize it and actually you need to be able to recognize it. Some people can't control the fear and it can bring them down. But if you can recognize your fear and then either work out a way to avoid it or to use it and embrace it, you can actually turn it into an incredible form of energy as well.
Yeah. I haven't read the book, but you were telling me this guy but he worked with Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, so it's not just elite
athletes,
kind of high performers. This guy was teaching
elite
to the fucking big dogs.
And not everyone can do it, but that's why we're talking about it today.
It's interesting because anytime you go in and you're starting a business, you're going to feel fear and doubt, because starting any business, there's never a guaranteed success. It's always a risk. It's always a gamble. And I remember when I was starting my first Amazon business in 2018, my very first product, I was working at Foodland on the cash register. Checkout dude, right? And I was packing bags, scanning groceries and stuff, and I worked for a whole year and I managed to save $10,000. And that's when I came across Amazon, and then I did my product research and I found a product, and I kind of knew what I was doing, but not really. It was my first business, I'd never even heard about e-commerce before that. I was just I was ready to do something. And like I said, I had this $10,000 and I was kind of just like, I found this product and I was like, fuck it. Like I reached out to the supplier and it cost about $10,000, which was everything I had.
Mm-hmm.
Now I was lucky because I was living at home still. So like, I had that fallback, but it was all my savings, my hard-earned savings. And I decided to actually use my full $10,000 into my very first order. Now, is that the smartest thing to do? Thinking back now, like probably not, but like, the truth is, I did feel a lot of fear and doubt. Like I remember I was like, after I'd already placed the order, 30%, and there were some problems in manufacturing first time round where they fucked the logo up, they put it on the, like in 2 places and they just did things. And a couple times the supplier was like to me, hey, like we did this, can we carry on? And I was like, no, that's not the specifications that I gave you. I want my money back. I actually, for my first product, was like, I want my money back to the supplier. And then they were like, oh no, all good, we'll fix it. Like as soon as I gave them that. But I remember like it's so many times, like I was at work, like at Foodland, I'd check out like at night time and there was like, because I work like 4 p.m. to like 9:30 p.m. And there's not many customers around, so I would just kind of be on the checkout by myself and be thinking about stuff a lot. And I remember a lot of times I was actually like thinking like, fuck, this could fail. I remember like consciously being like it could succeed, it could fail. Like it was truly like that. Like I always felt that even after I'd done all the research, committed all my money, I still always had those recurring thoughts of like, oh man, this could fail. And but I still did it right, and that's where I got started into Amazon. And that one of those products, ended up doing incredibly well. So
yeah, I actually have a memory of you, and maybe you didn't want to share this, but I'm
no,
sure
go on.
So we were in our kitchen at our mum's house in Adelaide, and I think it was one of those places where you had placed, this is well into your business. You're putting a lot of money up front. We're talking about like 30, 40, 50 grand for an order that's like then in the middle of the ocean. You're like, where the fuck is my product? It can be stressful. But I remember at this point, I think you had put this order in, biggest order, and I think you had like maxed out your credit card as well. Like you had gone all in, and you were having this moment in the kitchen, and you're quite emotional. You're like, fuck, like not a moment of a moment of realization of just like you've really gone 100% in. Everything is in, and things can go wrong, and sometimes it's important to almost allow yourself to be like that. You allowed that moment. We were having a conversation, and you were like venting and feeling those emotions and being like, but have that moment of like, fuck, what if shit hits the fan?
Yeah.
Have that for let yourself feel it for a second, but then pick yourself up and be like, fuck it, like I'm all in, and you keep on moving forward. And I think having those moments actually pushes you forward, and when you're on that high and when you reach that goal and achieve that success, you're just like, wow, like at that point I was shitting my pants.
Yeah.
I pushed through it, felt the fear, did it anyway.
And it's funny you say that because it doesn't actually go away. Like yesterday I paid another 70% deposit to a supplier for my jewelry brand, Utopia Pumps. I paid that yesterday, and it was a big chunk of money. And still, like, I'm like, every time I'm like, fuck, like, I still always have the same fear now. It never goes away, but I still just do it every single time. I always just do it.
And do you, like Veronica was just talking about how, like, take that moment. Is that something that you deal with it now? Like, you're like, okay, I'm just going to embrace it. I'm going to take it in, or is it still a bit of a struggle? Like, is it still like it's still hard to?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I was just like, oh yeah, no problem, send money. Like every time I'm like,
it's just the feeling.
It's
not going to change.
But I mean, that's what it is. Yeah, I guess like I feel the fear and the doubt every time. But I guess the skill that I've developed, and maybe I've always had this skill, maybe I've developed it more of like my business career, is to just do it anyway. Just do it anyway.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Just do it anyway.
And I think I find it comforting. Like you think about, so if you're listening to this right now, and I want you to picture someone that you look up to. They're doing something that you want to do, and you're like, okay, they're here, I'm here. How do they get there? I'm too scared to make that leap. I find it so comforting that whoever you're looking up to right now, they're still shitting their pants. I guarantee you, at every stage of success, there's always that fuck. Because if you don't have those moments of fuck, then really, I think you're limiting yourself, you're not living to your full potential, you're in your comfort zone. I dare say that you're bored with your life as well. That fuck, oh my God, that fear is excitement without the breath. And I really like that. Because really, in terms of what you're, like, I actually listened to, when I was at the Amazon Seller Summit, 2 days ago in Sydney, we had, I forgot her name, an Australian Olympian. She was a keynote speaker, and she was talking about what's happening in your brain when you feel fear. And it's actually exactly in terms of the chemical response that your body has, fear and excitement is exactly the same. It's like more so your perception of it. Excitement is like, yes, I'm so excited, it's going to be so much fun. It's, I guess, more positive, whereas fear, you're kind of almost sitting back in that doubt. Because, what if everything...
And I liked it, like you talked about how like other people, maybe people are ahead of you or something like, and don't think, oh, they don't have this fear, because at the end of the day, if someone's net worth is maybe like a lot higher than yours, they're probably making bigger deals. They're making bigger risks.
Even more
so more money's on the table.
They might have like way more money, but when it comes to like what they're risking to what you might be risking, it's very similar. So they still have the same thought. So don't just think because someone's made of money over there, they're not still putting big risks and making big plays.
That's true. And they're probably in more debt too, because like, you know,
100%.
The book Shoe Dog, where Phil Knight's explaining how he's growing Nike, and they're doing millions and millions and millions of dollars, but he's always at the bank getting more and more credit, getting a bigger and bigger and bigger loan, so he can get that loan and dump it straight into Nike. Not even put it straight into the business, millions of dollars. Imagine the fucking big balls on that.
I remember reading that Elon Musk, when he, I think he sold one of his businesses, he had, hundreds of millions of dollars, and he invested like every single cent into, a few of his businesses, that he had to borrow money from someone to pay his rent.
No, he was down. He was literally living off nothing. He had everything invested. That
he sold PayPal, made hundreds of millions.
He was borrowing money off a mate just to get by at one stage, because it was he was
now,
heavily.
Now we're not saying that's what it's going to be like for you. Like,
I think it's like in comparison of
like
we all have our own fears, and we all have our limits that, like, when you stretch yourself and you're like, oh, I feel it's unsteady, uncertain. It's that uncertainty.
Yeah,
really.
and I guess that one was like a lot to do with money. I guess that was the fear of like investments and stuff like that. You're like, oh, I'm putting this amount. Yours may put everything in. 10,000. I guess like something I wanted to speak about a little bit was like about almost fear of doubting yourself, your abilities. That's something that I've come from, where I've come from my career as a tradie, then moving and buying a laptop and learning like e-commerce. And like forever having things like that.
Fun fact. When I first met Chris, he didn't have a laptop. He didn't even own a laptop, and now he's a full-time
We all went to
entrepreneur.
Apple together around the mall in Adelaide.
A Nokia 3210 or something.
Legit, old school devices.
Camera just rolling out fake pictures.
Pretty much.
But so for me, like, I have a lot of fear and doubt over the years of like, am I good enough to be doing this? Like, am I good enough to be competing with the big dogs in the e-commerce ecosystem? And I guess like we were discussing a bit earlier, like I do a lot of editing now, and when I first started, I was like, how do I compete with these YouTubers? How do I compete with these like influencers? How do I get as good as them? And I had like doubts about my ability because I was so fresh. Like you said, I didn't have a laptop. Like I've had to learn even the basics of using a laptop over the last many years ago now, but like now I'm a little bit more advanced in using a laptop, but now I'm editing and stuff.
4 years ago.
4 years ago, time it takes it. But yeah, like now, like I'm using all different types of editing tools, and that is still like you still have that doubt sometimes. You're like, oh, does that cut look good? Am I doing something right here? It's like that split second, and you just gotta kind of back yourself in. And I guess like something that like I've been discussing, and we briefly touched on it a bit earlier the other day, was that like breaking things into parts so that you can break your fear and doubt into parts, so it's not all overwhelming at once. If you like think of the big picture and you're like, wow, I've got to do this and this to actually meet the expectations in your head, then you can really start doubting your own abilities and being like, well, maybe I can't do that.
You get overwhelmed, right?
Get overwhelmed.
Looks like it's impossible.
And then that fear creeps, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to get it by this deadline. I'm not going to get it done to the standard I want. I'm not going to be as good as everyone else. But if you start like breaking it down and then hitting each task in a smaller, that fear is a lot less. Your doubt's a lot less, and then you can knock it off, and then you slowly start knocking it off in increments. And I feel like that's one of the best strategies I've come across for overcoming fear and doubt.
And that's an awesome point, and something that comes to mind for me as well, like your only competition is like yourself. Like it's not actually anyone around you when you see this person, oh, they're amazing at this. But like they might be on chapter 50 of their story, you might be on chapter 1, and a lot of people do compare their chapter 1 to someone's chapter 50. And a lot of people do compare around, like people around them and what they're doing and how successful they are. and not just focus enough. And I'm sure I'm guilty of this.
Yeah.
100% I'm guilty of this, not just focusing on what I can do, you know, to become a little bit better day by day. Sometimes you see these people, in Lambos or, you know, doing whatever, and it's like, wow, that's crazy. But, you know, all you can do within your power is just be like, all right, well, I've got my goals, my tasks, my businesses, I'm just going to focus on those completely. And that's really all you can do.
And how good is it, like, when you guys say, I'm going to ask you both the question, to have, like, you're going to agree with me anyway, but like to have that mentor, have someone that's maybe a little bit further ahead of you, not too far ahead, so you can actually speak about these fear and doubt to them. I know, like, I've got my mate Tom, who he's a little bit further ahead of me in certain industry, and I reach out to him every now and then and discuss what I'm going through, because I know that he's recently been through that. So when he talks about it, he's obviously overcome it, or we can just vent about it. And I know you have the same sort of people, Veronica, I know you do as well. So how like useful is that to have someone who's not too far ahead, but have that sort of mentor?
Yeah, I think this goes back to, you know, many conversations we have in it. I think it's always on repeat, but I think it kind of emphasizes the point of it. It's, you know, you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with, and that's whether you hang around in person, listening to them on a podcast or YouTube, Netflix. Like, it doesn't have to be just the people that you hang around with. It's like, what knowledge are you consuming and from? Who's that from? And that's, you're going to become like that. Environment is stronger than willpower, and that is across the board. I think, like, having someone that you're looking up to, and then not even just looking up to in terms of just admiring or even being envious of what they've been able to achieve, like someone that you look up to, that you're able to be in their network, that they can act as a mentor to you, whether it's, you know, doing a course, whether it's one-on-ones, whether it is having coffee.
A mentor doesn't even have to be someone face-to-face though.
No.
It can actually just be someone you watch their YouTube videos, or someone's course that you buy. Like, that is still considered a mentor.
Yeah, 100%.
Reading all of Tony Robbins' books and watching his bloody Netflix show.
Like,
he can still be considered being
they'll speak about their fears and their doubts as well, because then you can relate to it. It's about being able to relate to someone else. You don't feel like you're the only one, because if you start feeling like you're the only one going through this, that's when you start getting inside your head. Realistically, everyone's going through different scenarios, or the same scenarios every day that you're going through it. You just got to remove yourself.
What were you finishing?
I do want to say that, like, I've got a few women that, you know, they have no idea who I am. I follow them on Instagram, and I call them like my Instagram besties. So when I refer to them in conversation, that's who they are to Chris and Eric. But what these women are, they're women that are, you know, my age. They're doing, they have online business in some capacity, and I love, like, how they share their stories and what they're doing. But what I really love is that I found people that I would love to be best friends with them. Like, if I was in America, I'd be like, hey, let's catch up for coffee, because I like their vibe, I like what they're doing, and I love their businesses, and their businesses are a few steps in front of mine. So I'm like, okay, well, they're doing these things, I want to implement that as well. But because I do find them so, I don't look at them and be like, oh, they're these famous people. They're, again, people that women that I want to be best friends with. But what that really, I guess, a level of comfort is that the only difference between these women and me and the success that they've been able to achieve is that they're just a few chapters ahead.
Just time.
And it's basically like time, and they didn't stop. So, you know, a few years ago, a few months ago, they were where I am. So if I keep on doing what I'm doing, or more so, you know, making sure that there is steps involved in there as well, that I can achieve that. So it's not like, you know, I'm not looking at, you know, Kim Kardashian and I'm after her lifestyle, because, like, the gap is very big.
So I was trying to bring it back down from the Elon Musk before.
So these women are women.
Don't lie, you wouldn't mind being Kim Kardashian.
I mean, like, you know, but in terms of, like, what I'm saying, like, these women, if they were on the Gold Coast, you know, they've got followings on Instagram. If they were on the Gold Coast, I would be the first to see, like, hey, love what you're doing. Like, obviously, I want to give them, offer them value, something. I'm not just, you know, there to get freebies or anything, but I would be going out of my way to be somehow in their communities to see if I can form a relationship with them.
Yeah. And on that, like, a great way to, like, because a lot of people be like, okay, like, you know, I see these people, but how do I actually become friends with these type of people? Well, you have to offer value. And something that I'm really big on, and something that I've learned really recently from one of my close friends, and something I consider a mentor as well, is reciprocity. It's like you give and you receive. So it's like, if you want to become friends with someone who's on a high level, think not you don't go from the perspective of how do I become their friend so they can teach me things, because that's selfish.
Yeah.
You have to give them value. You have to offer value. You have to offer them support. So you can be, what can you give? For example, if you know that they're really good at business, but their health is lacking, and you know health, you know how to go to the gym and work out, you can say, hey, let's hang out. Let's go to the gym together 4 times a week. I've got a program. I'm gonna get you staunch. Like they would have, and that might be like, well, perfect. And that's how you become friends with someone. And that's the power of reciprocity. Giving gifts, giving before you expect to take.
Yeah, and never message someone that you admire and be like, hey, I'd love to take you out for a coffee to pick your brain.
Yeah. I get that message a lot too.
Yeah, you can't, because these people, they're in the position that they're in because people pay for their services to be mentored by them. You can't expect to be like, oh, but that's a nice gesture. 100% not, and it does put you on a different level to them completely.
Yeah.
But if you lead with value, be like, hey, I saw in your story that you're doing this, this challenge or wanting to get into something. I actually do this. I'd love to help you out.
Give them something for free. Exactly. Give them something for free. Offer them something, and that's how you actually become friends. They'll appreciate it, and they might start chatting a little bit more. Then you're like, all right, let's get a coffee. Yeah. Not the whole let me pick your brain, because that, how that people say that.
Exactly.
It's
just
so selfish.
Why would you're a stranger to them? Why would they go to a coffee with a stranger for them to give to you?
Some guy messaged me last week or recently, and he's like, he lives in Brisbane. He's like, hey bro, come to Brisbane. I'll get your beer, pick my brain, and I'll pick your brain. I'm like, I don't even drink beers. I live in Gold Coast. I don't know you. Why would I do that? Like, why is that? It's just bizarre to me. But on the mentor front of things, in the past, I've had mentors in health and fitness where I bought courses. I've had mentors in mindset where I bought courses. I've had mentors in relationships where I bought courses, and obviously business too. I've had so many different mentors across different areas of life that I've actually paid for. Probably by now $10,000 plus that I've actually committed more into mentoring in different communities, different groups, access different people, and I've been able to do that and become friends with some of my mentors that.
And on because obviously we've gone a bit to the topic of mentors, but the fear and doubt of reaching out to these people is they've been through this. They've gone through the same place you are right now. So they've reached out to people above them, or they've reached out to their mentors. So don't have that fear and doubt that these guys are too good and they won't speak to you. And if they don't take it as a harsh feeling, because these people are busy. So just take it as, okay, maybe I didn't approach it the right way, or maybe they're too busy to speak to me. And that's why we suggested having someone who's not too far ahead, because there's more chances of you actually being able to connect with them on a social basis, on a one-on-one basis, and actually be able to get more information and become grow your network through these people, rather than going too high too soon and not actually getting disheartened.
Something that comes to mind for me also is that people love to help people that are already helping themselves. And a story that I always explain is, it's one of my favorite ones, is if someone's car breaks down on the highway and they're just standing there with their thumb out like this, and they're and they're asking for people to stop and help them, but they're just standing there and they're not doing anything. Most cars drive straight past, right? They don't help. But if this person were to start, now I'm not it's not an actual thing you would do, but you flick your car into neutral and you start pushing your car up, then people are going to start pulling over and helping you, wanting to help you push your car, because they see you helping yourself. And it's a story I explain all the time, and that's the same thing. If you want people to help you, then go out and start helping yourself and doing things on your own, and other people of high quality will respect that. And they'll want to come in and they'll want to help you, because they see, okay, this person is already taking the initiative. I like that, because high level people respect people that
100%.
take initiative and are trying, and real recognize real, it really is like that.
Right. And it doesn't even matter what level you're on.
It doesn't matter at all.
If you're here but you're trying your absolute best, and someone up here that you consider being up here sees that, the respect is mutual immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't, this actually isn't, that's irrelevant actually, you're here.
Straight away,
because both of you are hustling and pushing yourselves to reach your highest potential. It doesn't matter what you may look like, on paper or from an outside perspective.
We have spun off. We're supposed to be talking about fear and doubt, going down the whole mentor, but it's super important. I know.
Hold on, but I'm gonna bring it together. Is that I think we got here because when there's doubt and when there's fear, And this ties in with the environment, that your environment is so important. So if you feel that you are, always in fear or self-doubting, that means that you need to put yourself in an environment that lifts you up. In those moments where you're really struggling to do it yourself, who can you turn to? What can you turn to?
Yeah.
And that's where people, communities, whether it's, Instagram bestie, like who do you turn to that you can be like, okay, can I speak to them, or do they have resources that I could use to help me in this situation? And that's where a mentor comes in. So obviously we're in the Amazon space. We have our Amazon course. We want to eliminate that fear, that doubt, that overwhelm with people coming into the Amazon space, because we have created a course that leads you step by step. So instead of you're at the bottom of the mountain saying that, I wonder if I can start on Amazon, and the top of the mountain is getting your first sale. That can be very overwhelming. That costs money. I don't know what people will think of me. Like all of these fears and doubts.
You feel doubt.
But then you come into a community like ours, and we've given you instead of just throwing you a rope and you have to climb, we've crafted this beautiful staircase for you just to look at the next level. And that's what going through each video
That's
is.
it. And then we have our community too. Yeah, we've got our Facebook community where we offer support. We add in exclusive videos and everything. It's all there.
Yeah.
I think it's also crucial that you have the people around you as well. You want people that are real with you. You don't want for me, I like to get better, and for me to get faster and to get rid of fear and doubt is to ask for a little bit I'll ask for feedback. But I want feedback from people that are going to give me honest feedback, not people that are just going to be like, yep, well done, that's really great. Obviously me and Veronica, I ask her all the time, and she's like, don't like this. And I get a little bit down about it, but it's honest feedback so that I can then get better on it. So the fear and doubt of whatever you're doing, if you have a few good people you can trust and really get their honest opinion, it can actually help you get out of that fear and doubt. Because if you're doubting yourself, but then you ask for, hey, what do you think of this? And you know that their opinion is honest and true, you can easily pass on that fear and doubt on your abilities or whatever you're doing, because you've got a backed opinion. But if you've got a fake friendship group or a fake community around it, they're just like, oh yeah, that's really nice, you've done a good job. Realistically, they're just being nice to you.
Or the other way, they're talking shit, and misery loves company too. So
So it's good to have the right people around you and get the right feedback, because then you can easily move on from your fear and doubt each time. That's another good thing to think about.
Yeah. So I reckon, maybe we've been talking about for about 20 minutes
now.
now.
How long is it?
It's been great. So maybe not a recap, but we've shared. We have and we do continue to experience doubt and fear. I guess, what are our 3 takeaways? What are the things that you personally implement into your lives, habits, things that you do to limit those, or to at least, okay, I feel I'm shitting my pants right now. What do you do to calm yourself down?
I straight away, for me, I feel the fear, I embrace it, and I say, fuck it. Because I always think back, what are my options? If I don't do it, then what happens? Well, I stay where I am?
Yeah.
So no, you have to do it. For me, I've always had the mindset where it's I either become successful or I die. I actually have that mindset where it's everything or nothing. So I feel the fear, and then I'm gotta do it. I mean, it sucks, but just gotta do it. I don't know how relatable that is, but I'm sure there's some people out there that are, you just got to do it. You just got to back yourself. And even if it fails, because that's the reason people have fear. Because, what if it fails? What if I lose all of my money? Well, you haven't failed. You've just learned a very important lesson. Now, if you're smart, it's a lesson. And if you're smart, you think, okay, what went wrong? The product was bad, or the listing, whatever it is. And then you go back, time number 2, and you do it again. Now you've implemented the lesson this time. So now you're not starting from scratch, you're starting with experience.
That's right.
And then you make it work. That's it. So really it's okay, you fail, but if you have the mentality where you just learn, don't give up, go again, you make it work. That's how it works. That's what every entrepreneur will say.
Yeah.
Every you will fail at some point at something, but you
it's
just
inevitable.
You just learn, and then you get back on the horse.
Expect to fail. Something will go wrong.
Will Smith says it, fail fast and fail often.
Yeah, and fail forward. That's
fail
what
forward, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's.
I guess I have been more the breaking it down. Like I said at the start, I like to break it down so that it's not one big fear and doubt. It might be just smaller little ones, and you break them down and just eliminate them one at a time. break it down, like structure it so you can actually make it easier to get over that small fear and doubt rather than getting over one big fear and doubt when it comes to tasks and stuff like that.
Yeah. I agree with both of you, and I love it, but just for the sake of, offering something different, mine would be to just be extremely focused. So, because personally I experience that when I get overwhelmed, I tend to procrastinate, then something else grabs my interest. I'm doing everything but what I know that I need to do, and that is a thing that is petrifying, the scary thing, the thing that I, doubting myself on. So having that focus, not seeing what anyone else is doing, asking for other people's opinions is something that I do. That can be great if you have a tight network of people that you really trust. But also, I feel that people do that and they ask everyone. They ask their cat, their neighbor, their grandma, just everyone. The lady at the checkout chick. They're asking everyone, and it's more so a distraction. You're procrastinating, and that's a big one for me. I procrastinate. So being laser focused and just, as Chris said, breaking it down, looking at that next step, being scared and doing it anyway.
Like I said the other day, it's not managing time, you're managing focus. If you can manage your focus right, then time management isn't an issue.
That's a whole other topic.
That's
we
a
could
whole
have a
another
full podcast. I've got points to say, but we will just go for another 20 minutes.
We'll leave that one for next time. So
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Conquer Online podcast. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
See you later, guys. Bye.